Hello, hello. Welcome. We are on in the evening now. Usually I do these in the morning time, so hopefully we'll get a good crowd on tonight. I'm just pulling up my notes. I just hopped off of my Nutrition Elite group coaching. We do a group coaching call every week, so I feel like I am flying high because we've already been talking about all kinds of inspiring stuff, and those women totally light me up and make me laugh, and we have so much fun together. Looks like people are hopping on, but I can't see who's here, so tell me if you are hopping on right now. Leave a comment. I see the number going up, but it's not telling me anybody's names. Anyway, I'm super pumped to chat with you guys tonight. This is the series, welcome Lori. This is the Tapping Into Your Inner Badass series, and within this series I'm talking about different topics to really help support you in thriving, because thriving is what life is all about. Like, really believing that life is not just about getting by and being status quo and waking up and getting through the day and then going to sleep and doing it all over again. I truly do not believe that that's why we're here and why we're alive. I really believe that we're here to experience life to the fullest and to really be conscious creators and decide that we deserve everything that we desire, and sometimes even more than what we can desire or even think of right now. So today is all about really taking charge of your life and deciding that you want this, deciding that you want more, and then guiding from within over and above all else. And so, this is just a continuation of what we've been talking about so far, about this idea of really discovering the guidance that is within. We have so much wisdom inside ourselves that we tend to discount, and we tend to think that other people know best, and we tend to believe that we should follow what other people say, even when we don't maybe totally feel like it is the right decision. A lot of times that comes from us getting stuck up in our heads. And I've talked about this on a few of the other Facebook Lives within this series, that when we're operating up here, we're not operating from here. And the more that we can get from our head, which serves, like our mind does serve us. Obviously, it helps us with so many things. We need our mind. But we don't only need our mind. We need our heart. We need that guidance from within as well. And we need to use both. And really, I do believe that that's very similar to the connection between the masculine and the feminine. We have the masculine energy, which is very much about go, 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 do, like get things done, cross things off the list. It's very determined energy. It's very analytical. It's very thinking, and this is something I cover a lot in my immersion program, where we get so used to that because that's very much how our society is run, from this very masculine energy, that the muscle of masculine gets really big, but then the muscle of our feminine gets really small. Like, we don't practice being in our feminine. The feminine is the nurturing, it's the leaning back, it's the sourcing from within, it's the nurturing of others and of ourselves. And I think that sometimes we get so used to operating in our masculine that we forget how important it is to check in with ourselves, and that we ultimately are our greatest expert when it comes to everything. When it comes to our health, obviously we need doctors, obviously we need medicine, but when it comes down to it, we know our body best. And sometimes we outsource the decision-making process for our health, and we totally give away our power. And that's just one example. Today we're talking about how to take charge and guide from within. So I want to ask you, how often do you use your intuition? How often do you really get quiet? And whether it's through meditation, or maybe just going out into nature and spending some time in nature. We were just on, like I was saying, we were on our call, and Lori was talking about float therapy, and when she was talking and explaining it, I was thinking, wow, float therapy would be a really great way to quiet all of our senses so that we can tune inward. So doing things like that, where you get very connected to the present, and you get very connected to yourself, and you can start to ask yourself questions about what you want to create for your life, whether it's your health, your wealth, your relationships, whatever it is, and you can tune into that guidance from within. You can start to really get clear about what you do want to create for yourself. You can start to dream, and maybe even dream bigger than what you have dreamed before, and then start to really feel into what that would feel like for you to step into in your life. Another one of the books that I've mentioned on this series is The Desire Map, and that was by Danielle Laporte, and that book was a game changer for me. I remember like it was yesterday going through, and I had the audio and the actual book, and I was sitting at the Lake of Dreams in Vegas, if you are familiar. And this was back before I went to Vegas every other month, it feels like now. But I was sitting there, I was having a glass of wine. I was there with friends, but some girlfriends, but they were off doing something else. And I was just by myself, and I was really tuning into what emotions do I want to feel in my life? Why am I here? Like, what am I craving? What lights me up? And I went through the whole process of really discovering what it is that I wanted to feel, why I was chasing all of the goals that I was chasing, like what I thought that those goals were gonna allow me to feel about myself and in my life. And then I decided that if I wanted to feel those things, what was holding me back from starting to feel them now? Like, there were certain things that I could start doing if I gave myself permission to begin feeling those things today. I don't have to wait until I make a certain amount of money, or I weigh a certain amount, or whatever. If I have a certain kind of relationship, I don't have to wait until I have those things in order to start feeling that way. I can give myself that gift now, and there are certain things I can start to incorporate that will help me to feel that way. So if that's something that's interesting to you, definitely check out the book The Desire Map. But guiding from within is something that we don't really do that very much. We tend to put so much emphasis on what other people tell us we should do that I think a lot of times we completely disconnect from what that feels like. So it takes time and practice to really tune in to what your intuition is telling you. And so you have to test it. And in order to test it, you do need some level of structure so that you can play with what that feels like to have the freedom of testing out your intuition. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but I'll give you an example. So anything in life, like we have this spectrum with structure on one end and freedom on the other. Sometimes what happens is we go all the way to structure on the far end of the spectrum, and usually that means that we're following some very strict rule plan, some rigid list of to-dos that somebody else probably gave us. And a lot of times when we have way too much structure and we're outsourcing all of that feeling of creativity and decision-making and everything to someone else, then we rebel and we push against that, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants all of their decisions made for them. Nobody wants complete rigid jail, whether we're talking about your health and your food and fitness plan, or we're talking about your money and how you spend your money, or your job and what you do in your job. Like, people, we are, as human beings, we crave creativity, right? We want freedom, we want adventure, we want interest, we want a certain level of uncertainty. So a lot of times what happens, especially when it comes to our health and dieting in particular, we go all the way to the other end of the spectrum and we go to freedom. And that's when we binge and we just, blow the doors off and we fly off the wagon. And that's not helpful. Like, that's not what we want either, right? And so once we get all the way to that end of the spectrum, then we crave structure again. So then that's where we bounce all the way back again, because we're like, oh, I need to, start over, and I've got to get back to the plan, and I've got to follow the plan. And that's where this whole yo-yo effect begins. And what happens when you do that is you never really learn what you want. You're just bouncing from like no rules to too many rules, to no rules to too many rules, and it doesn't feel good. And you're not in the driver's seat of your life. So when you take charge and you start to tune into your own intuition, what you truly crave and what you need in order to thrive is a certain level of structure that allows you to feel safe, that gives you some guidelines that feel like, okay, I've got this, like this is my starting point, But then that structure gives you the freedom to play with freedom. So you have enough structure to be like, okay, I've got this. But then I'm going to experiment with that. I'm going to experiment with checking in with myself. I'm going to do these workouts, but I'm going to experiment with what feels good, like how hard I'm going to push myself. Or maybe, you know, if we're talking about money, like I have this particular job that makes me feel secure, but I'm going to experiment with residual income because I want to make more. Or whatever it is for you that allows you enough structure to feel safe with playing with freedom. And that is so different for every individual because every single person is different, has a different level of comfort with risk and with what they want. And obviously we all have different core desired feelings and what we want to create for our lives. So there's nothing that, obviously, if I'm telling you to tune into your intuition, there's nothing like specific that I can say like this is the exact amount of structure that you need and this is the exact amount of freedom. Like I can't tell you that, but I can give you these guidelines to play with that give you the ability to experiment with. It's almost like this is a container that makes you feel safe enough to play and experiment so that you can customize and create the life of your dreams. And that's what we all want, right? We want the life of our dreams. And this is something that I personally, and tell me what you guys think. I'm just talking, but I want to hear from you. I know there's some people who are on live. I'd love to hear your feedback or your ahas on this as well. Like, you know, give me some thoughts that you're like the little thought bubble that's popping up in your head right now. Because I'd love for this to be a discussion, and give me some likes too if you guys can relate to this or if this is making sense for you. I'd love to hear from you. But for me to share something personal from my experience, I learned this again and again, and hopefully it's eventually going to sink in that at different levels of my life, I realize I need a coach. Like I need someone to be there that's going to help and guide me. And it's so important. And that's why I do what I do is I want to guide people in discovering I want to guide people in rocking their dream body by their definition and their dream life by their definition of that term. What that looks like for them. It's different for every person. That said, there are times where I have to check myself and recognize that like I want to create the life of my dreams, and sometimes I can get caught up following rules that other people have set for me, but when and what a success looks like, but if I really stop myself and look at what their lives look like, I don't really want what they have. Like I'm a very intuitive person and I can feel different things, and sometimes I have to say like, hold up, what am I doing? Like I'm chasing this thing, I'm trying to fit myself into this little box, and I don't actually really want what that person that's telling me what to do is created. On some level I do, some parts of it I do, like this piece and that piece, but like in general I want this, this, and this, and this. So if that's true, then I have to take my power back, and I have to give myself permission to not allow myself to be shaken if I don't follow the rules that other people are telling me to do, or maybe, you know, they're not exactly thinking that what I'm doing is right, and that's okay. And this is something else that we talked about on our Nutrition Elite group just right before this call, is like, not everybody is always going to understand you. You know, not everyone is like, you're probably going to be misunderstood for much of your journey, especially if you're different, especially if you want different things than what most people do. But you know what? That's okay. Just be you, be true to you, and keep going and keep trusting yourself, and use that as the fuel to fire you up and know that what you want is worth it. And I'll give you guys a little tip from my coach that I felt was really helpful. Is she said that sometimes people will disagree with us, or they'll say things that are hurtful. You know, and for me, like, I'm a sensitive person, so I have to work on that. And so if someone says something that's hurtful, what happens is a lot of times is like, if you imagine yourself in a pool and somebody throws a beach ball at you, and that's that hurtful thing that someone is saying, you like grab the beach ball and you try to like stuff it under the water, and you're like fighting with it, and you're trying to force it under the water, and it pops back up, and then you push it back down again, and it pops back up. And we fight with it, and we're like, I'm so mad that that person thinks this or said that, and it's frustrating. She's like, imagine if you saw that beach ball coming and it hit you, and then you realize it's a beach ball, and you just like let it bounce off of you. And it's like, all these little beach balls, it's not that big a deal, like let that bounce off. And then you just It's like, you feel it. It's like as an energetic thing when you imagine it, just like, oh yeah, it's just the beach ball. It's no big deal. And what if we just imagined all of these things that we get so stressed out about as a beach ball? It's just no big deal. Does that resonate for you too? When she told me that, I was like, it's a really good analogy. I like that one a lot. So I've been using that. So you guys can use it too if that's helpful. So going back to my notes, I just want to make sure I cover this stuff. Do you guys have any ahas? I see you guys on there. I want to hear what you're thinking. Tell me. So let's have a conversation. So we've talked about structure. We have this like love-hate relationship with structure and with freedom. And I just want you to play with that and not have this love-hate relationship with it. Just treat this as an experiment. Like, life's an adventure. This sounds really silly, but sometimes, what if you imagined life as if it was just a video game? Like, what if this was just a video game that you're playing and you're like, this could all be fun. Why do I make it out to be such a stressful thing? Like, what if it's just a game? And I know that sounds stupid and silly because it's life and it's very precious, and we all want, life to be very meaningful and perfect, and we try so hard. But when we take some of that pressure off of ourselves to like measure up to all of these rules, and we really just decide like, I get to set the rules, I get to play with this, and I get to create consciously what I want to create for my life, then it changes everything. Like, it changes your energy of how you show up. It changes what it means when people say things to you, and when you start to tune inward and ask yourself these questions that are so powerful and start to decide what you want your life to look like, and you decide to give yourself permission to rock your dream body and enjoy yourself along the way and set goals for yourself and life and business and career and everything else, but also have fun today, then it's like, oh, okay, this is what it's really all about, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about today, and the action step I wanted to give you, is that that sometimes it's easy to look around at other people and say, well, it's easy for you to say. Like, for me, I don't have kids. There are certain things that I can't relate to because I haven't experienced them. But I want you to know that, like, when we look at everyone else, it's very easy to look at other people's lives and say, oh, it's easier for them because they don't have to deal with this, or, they don't know what I'm going through. And what I want you to know is that each individual person has exactly what that individual person needs in order to achieve what it is that they want to create for their lives. And so even though my own personal life choices or things that I've experienced may be different than yours, my message is that even though I may not know exactly what you're going through today or what you've gone through, I've gone through my own challenges too. Like, we all have challenges, no matter who you are or how much money you have or how perfect you look or perfect your body is or how perfect your relationship is. Every single person has their own challenges. It's part of being a human being, is that there is no sort of finish line of perfection that you cross where you're just like, everything's good, because that's like part of wanting more, being human. I talked about this the other day. Like, we all want more. We all have things that come up, and challenges are part of what really help us to discover what we want to create for our lives. And there's no such thing as perfection. And so rather than using that as an excuse to say like, oh, easy for her to say, she doesn't have kids, or she doesn't have this, or she doesn't know, use that as like, okay, yeah, Sheila doesn't have kids, but you know what? I don't want exactly what Sheila has anyways, but I do want this and I do want that, and she is saying this and that resonates with me, and so I'm going to take that piece and I'm going to apply it to my life because it does apply in this way, and I can empower myself in this way because I want these things and these emotions and these core desired feelings, and use the parts of what I'm saying to fuel you towards your desires. And so that's the biggest takeaway that I want you to have from this Facebook Live, is that my whole message is really about empowering you to discover your own power. And I talk about these things, and I talk about rocking your dream body, and I talk about rocking your dream life, and by no means do I consider myself perfect or like I figured everything out. But I'm here today and every day and in the work that I do because I want to inspire people to see this as a movement where we truly all can work together to inspire ourselves, to inspire each other, and to really just sort of create this community that's so much bigger than one person, where all of our voices are so much louder together than they are as an individual, to show people that no matter what your life looks like, you can achieve your dream life. You can create whatever you want to create for yourselves. And together we can do that. Together we can support each other. And there are so many more options than I think we allow ourselves to see sometimes. And we are so much more powerful than we allow ourselves to see sometimes. Do you guys agree? Are you starting to feel powerful? Are you starting to maybe even feel like, okay, maybe I have been limiting myself. Like maybe I've been holding myself back. Maybe I've been kind of sticking in my comfort zone, or maybe that thing that I want actually is possible. Maybe there are certain things that I can start to allow myself to test out and see. Maybe my intuition is guiding me. Maybe there is something that I've been ignoring. Maybe I am a badass and I just kind of forgot. And that's what I always tell my clients is like, you're not broken. I don't need to fix you. You don't need to fix yourself. I spent years trying to fix myself. I spent so much money, doctor's visits, and I've told you guys this story before, and if you haven't heard it, like I had a lot of hormonal issues. I had all kinds, like the whole gamut of hormonal and digestive stuff going on, and I went from doctor to doctor to doctor trying to fix myself. And the breaking point, or the tipping point, I should say, it's not a breaking point. The tipping point was that I got to a doctor. It was a nutritionist that was working for a doctor. And he was like, all right, we just kept, up to this point, we had added so many different supplements and all of this stuff. And he's like, I think you have Hashimoto's disease, but it's really expensive to test for it. So I think that we should just treat you as if you have it, and here's this whole list of restrictions that you need to follow. Meanwhile, I had all these other restrictions that all kinds of other doctors told me I needed to follow. So I was so confused. I was like, wait, this is different than that. I don't know, like who's right? This doctor said this and this, and now it's like I feel like I'm worse than ever. And I just decided, I walked out, I paid my bill, I walked out the door, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I know that my body can heal itself. I know that when I really just give it some space to breathe, and I just ease up on myself and stop stressing out all the time and stop feeling like I'm broken and stop trying to fix myself and stop feeling sorry for myself, my body will heal itself. And that's what it did. Over time, my body, the hormone stuff, the digestion, and I learned about everything that I teach now, the whole connection between our emotions and our physical body, and how when we allow our body to be at ease and we work on the inner stuff, that the turmoil that a lot of people are going on day to day with, then it frees your body to be able to work like the well-oiled machine that it truly can be. And so I think that that's the backwards way that most people are operating these days is, and this is sort of a side tangent on health, but because this is what I'm most passionate about. But when most people have a problem, they treat it as an acute thing. They continue with the stressful lifestyle. They continue with not eating well. They continue with abusing their body, as if it was a car and they're just like driving it into the ground, and then they have a problem and they go to the doctor and then they get a prescription that's like a Band-Aid on top of that problem that never really makes the problem go away, and then it just like squirts out in a different way. And I think that like all of the stuff that I'm talking about right now about tapping into your inner badass, it applies to our health. It applies, like I can give you the same scenario with money. If you are someone who's had money problems for a really long time and you continue to feel lack and you keep talking about lack and you keep feeling like a victim and you keep thinking you don't make enough money and you'll never make enough money and you want to make a lot of money, but then you are mad at people who make a lot of money because they have more than you do and they should give you some, and all this resentment is the same exact thing as I was just talking about with health. You have to free yourself up. You have to get back into your power. You have to take responsibility for yourself and decide that you can do this. You have everything that you need right now, and you have to own that. And the more that you own that, and this is like sort of, we're coming up on the end of the week. I want to start rounding this out, and this idea of like every time we point the finger somewhere else, we're giving our power away. Every time we take our power back and say, yep, this is how things are, but you know what? I have the power to change this. That alone, that statement changes everything because it opens you up to so much more. It opens you up to people and experiences and opportunities that sometimes will just land in your lap, or maybe people that you'll talk to that you never were open to before, but then because you're in this more of an open mindset about like, yep, it's time for me to do this. Like, it's time for me to take responsibility for myself and do something about this. Then stuff shows up to support you. And I talk about the universe, but whether you believe in God or your own, like, whatever higher power, like the universe, your higher power, God will show up and support you when you start supporting yourself. Like when you give yourself permission to support yourself. When you take that power back and you say, yes, I'm ready. And that's why I'm doing this series. And that's what I want to help you with, is really discovering that you have everything that you need. You just have to decide, and the resources are there and they're available for you. Whether that's something, oh, Lori, sorry, I wanted to respond. So you said, maybe I've been allowing myself to keep telling old stories. Maybe you have. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yes, I think that we all do that. I'm teasing you, girl, because I love you. I do it too. Like, I do it too. We all have the old stories that it's just time to freaking let go of. Like, really, I'm talking to myself here. Like, it's time to let go of those stories. Beach ball, poop. Like, it's just a beach ball. Like, these things, like, even when you feel that old story come up, just imagine it like a beach ball. Oh, that thought, oh, that's a beach ball just bouncing away. And I'm being silly about it, but that's how we can treat it. Like, it doesn't have to define us. Yes, certain things happen that are a part of our lives, but it does not have to define us now in this present moment. We don't have to be stuck in the past. We don't have to be stuck worrying about the future. We're here right now. Like, we have our power right now, and this is the life that we're living, and we might as well live it to the fullest, right? Like, I mean, why not? Why not decide that we deserve to live life to the fullest? Because who's going to stop us? Like, we're the only one who truly is stopping ourselves. It's our own fear, it's our own anger, it's our own resentment, and it's everything that's going on inside of us that stops us. Giving ourselves permission to release all of that stuff. It's like baggage that we pick up. I talked about this in one of the past Facebook Lives. It really is the stuff that we decide to pick up and carry with us, like a Santa Claus sack every single day. And it's like, imagine if you didn't pick that up tomorrow. Imagine if you just decided you were just who you are today, and you're an amazing human being that has amazing desires that you want to create for your life, and an impact that you want to have on this world, and maybe even a legacy of some kind that you want to leave this world with. But you don't need to tell those old stories anymore to create that for yourself. In fact, the more you clear that out, the more space you create to be able to allow all of these new amazing things to flow in. Try that on tomorrow and see how it feels. Try on this idea of being a badass. Like, if you really believed, if you looked at, like, this is with my clients, one of the hardest exercises that I have them go through is to go into the bathroom or wherever you have a mirror, and to get close to the mirror and look into your own eyes, and to say, you could say this if you're a man too, but for most times for women, to say I love you to yourself. You could say you're a badass. You could say you're amazing. You could say you're a powerful creator. You could say whatever it is that you want to create for yourself. Like, whether it's health, most of the categories that I talk about are health, wealth, relationships, or spirituality. Your kids do see you as a badass. Good. Yes, because you are. You know what? Kids know everything. Like, kids are so much more connected than adults. Like, do you guys see it? They play. They're just in the moment. They don't worry about stuff. And then they're just like, what's next? Kids and animals. So if your kids see you as a badass, that means it's true. You should believe them. And I know you do. I know you're really getting into that groove where you're starting to realize, like, maybe it's true, because like, there are so many things in my own life, and this is actually another sort of thing that I'm sort of coming into now as well. I've talked to you guys about how at every level I have to remind myself of new things and really take it on at that new level, and I'm realizing, like, I'm a badass. Like, I've done some amazing things. Like, I've built a business from nothing. I've moved across the country. I've like created stuff that, like, I never there's no explanation for it other than the fact that I freaking manifested it and it just happened. Because I couldn't have manipulated, I couldn't have forced it to happen. It just showed up. So I want you guys to start really leaning into that and believing that you are a powerful creator, and the more you tune into your intuition, the better off you're gonna be. I'm gonna end there. I went over my 30-minute mark, but play with that. That's the homework for today is, and I hate the word homework because nobody likes homework, but whatever. The fun, the adventure, the game is to play with tuning into your intuition, and then leave a comment and let me know how it went. So tomorrow I will be on at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see you there. I hope you guys engage and leave comments and let me know that you're on. I hope you share this with someone that you know that needs to hear this message, because like I said, this is a movement. Thank you, Kay. I really appreciate that. This is a movement and you are part of this too. And if this resonates with you, treat this as your own. Like, let's do this together. So have an amazing night. I'm going to take a shower because I just came from the gym and then I hopped on phone calls, so I have not, just being honest. And then I'm gonna eat dinner because I love to eat and food is part of my fun, and that's, you know, part of my life as well, is talking about food and making healthy, yummy recipes. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.